Welcome or welcome back. My name is Grace. I'm starting off this vlog with a thriller. Okay, so I saw this book. It seemed interesting. It's by Holly Jackson. It's called Almost Dead or Not Quite Dead. My every time I set it down, it restarts. But I'll put it right here. So the synopsis got me. What the synopsis says, it's you have this character, Jet, she's your main character. She goes out to a Halloween party, goes home, she's home alone, and she is viciously attacked from behind. She does not know who attacked her, but they basically hit her with some kind of weapon behind the skull 3 times. When she wakes up from her 2, 3 day coma, in the hospital, they tell her she has 2 options. One of them is to go immediately into surgery, and she has like a 10% chance of survival, or she can just wait out 7 days because in 7 days she will be dead because it had like this whole explanation of like an aneurysm and all these things, and she already has kidney problems that she inherited from her father. So she wakes up with those 2 options and she decides, "Fine, I'm going to solve my own murder." So there's a lot of play on words throughout. Like, I'm only like 5 or so chapters in, but she's just like, "Oh, I need to solve my own murder, this and that, blah, blah, blah. Who killed me? I have to know who killed me." I get it. So Holly Jackson primarily writes young adult, and that is why I have not read her before. I thought I had a book from her, but I couldn't find it. So she wrote The Good Girl's Guide to Murder. It is young adult. I don't dabble with young adults, so I didn't read it. I think my daughter did. But when I saw this book, I saw that it was like a young woman. So I was like, okay, so this is an adult book, but it is reading very young adult. So our main character is Jet. Her real name is Margaret, but she goes by Jet. And she's just like too cool for school, and that's getting on my nerves. She's just like, "I'm a fuck up and this and that, blah blah blah. I wear motorcycle boots. I know, mom. I know I'm a fuck up and blah blah blah." And that's like her whole shtick. And at some point, her niece or nephew or whatever, she's just like, "I think that baby's fucking boring," and it's just like easy cool guy. So like her personality within like one chapter, I was kind of like, I might DNF this book. But I kept going, and I am interested to find out who did kill her because we don't have a whole lot to go off of. She does have an ex-boyfriend who she wouldn't speak to at the Halloween party. He said he had something important to say to her, disappeared, and she's just like put him off. She just kind of like pushed him off, and then he ends up texting her sorry later that night. She has her brother who they're kind of like he's going to inherit the family business. So there's kind of like static between them. Um, Her sister-in-law doesn't seem like a likely candidate. What happened here? They're obviously like besides themselves trying to figure out like what they're gonna do. Her mom just wants her out of surgery. And we've been introduced to like a handful of characters. The boy next door who his father is like the chief of police, but he's like a very like he's the one that found her. He seems just like very soft, very unassuming. I don't know if that's a red herring in the sense that it's like you wouldn't suspect him or you would suspect him. Like it's just like it could go either way. Um but yeah, there isn't too much to go off of because she is a law school dropout. The way she talks though, you would think she was like a high school dropout. Just like very like bad to the bone, very like rebel without a cause. It was getting on my nerves, and she also like kept saying how she's only 27. She has all the time in the world, all the time in the world, which like if you read the synopsis, you know what's coming. So a little corny, but like I just want to know who did it at this point. So I'm like I think 20 or so percent of the way into the book, 19%. So yeah, I have to go pick up my daughter from summer school. She's taking PE because she just does not want to take it anymore. She took PE her freshman year, and she just wants like that physical education credit behind her, and not she's also like she stresses me out. She talks about her AP classes and trying to plan them out so she can take the ones that she wants. But yeah, so she's taking PE. Iggy's recovering. I mentioned before, like I mentioned in a few vlogs, he had a surgery scheduled. It went well. It was actually less extensive than we thought it would be. Um, but it's like recovery is still hard. And I feel like because in the past year, all he's wanted to do was be in bed because he was in pain. I thought recovery would be a little bit easier. Like I knew it would be physically hard on me, but I thought like he would be okay. But he's very crabby. He cries a lot. And I think it's more like frustration because at first when I would turn him or like have to move him for something, he'd make his little faces. Now he's not making those, but he'll just randomly cry throughout the day. And I think it's just frustration, like, 'cause maybe he just doesn't understand why he went through surgery, why he's feeling what he's feeling. He has to have this pillow between his legs, for 2 weeks straight before we can start taking breaks from it, and I feel like he's probably thinking, like, how long like, he doesn't understand time well, so that's probably also a frustration on his part, but, yeah, I gotta get going, and I will get back to this book when I get back. All right, I am now at the 65% mark. I swear, anytime I read, it's like the worst hair day of my life because I keep like moving and tossing and turning. I kept telling myself I was going to check in at the 40% mark and then the 50% mark, and it just sucked me in. I will say it's still reading very young adult. Just like like the main character, I don't feel like she's meant to be unlikable, but she's unlikable to me because she's just so childish. Like she keeps making these like dead jokes where she's like over my dead body and she's like, "Oh, and I didn't get a reaction. Mom didn't smile." Like, it's just so stupid. And, there's, like, this minor romance kind of budding, and it's just, like, it's so obvious to you as the reader as far as, like, what's happening, even as far as, like, the whole murder thing. Like, there was this scene where it's, like, it was obvious to me what was going on, very obvious, but, like, it took, like, the main character and her little sidekick a minute to try to catch up. This clock, I don't remember in my last video if it was, like, you could actually hear it. I hate this clock. I hate this. I need to turn it down. I actually think like you're not able to hear it. It's just bothersome to me. Um, Let me see. So like, there are a ton of characters and as the plot moves along, they each have more and more of a motive cuz like right off the jump, you knew her brother may have had a motive if he's trying to take over the company, the family business, even though she clearly doesn't want it. There's just like this tension between them and he's just grubby. Like he and his wife, you get the impression that they're very grubby people. Um and yeah, like her buddy, like, I have no idea how this is gonna go from start to where I'm at right now, he's just, like, the sweetest guy. He's so caring, he's so nice, it's always Billy, it's Billy this, kind Billy. So it's like, I don't know if they're laying it on so thick, so I think it was him, but basically they were former best friends, and once she became a teen, she started hanging out with Sophia, which Sophia went on to marry her brother. But it's like, I don't know if it's supposed to be so obvious, so I think it's him and then it will I don't know. I have no idea. I'm at 65% and like nothing is too obvious. And you also have like rogue people in the town where it's just like, her dad makes a lot of money. They're like the wealthiest people in the area. Um and because of one reason or another, people don't like them. Either they're buying too much property or they're unscrupulous. Just, like, things like that. So it's just, like, there's a lot of loose ends and they got fleshed out, but it's, like, it can go either way. It can go however. But it is fun, like, I am enjoying it despite, like, me not liking the main character. Um, and just, like, I feel like I have such a fear of death. I have this character who's just, like, making jokes and just being annoying, like, she's not really thinking about, like, what life means. It's just so obvious. It's very, like, "I always thought I had all the time in the world, and now my life is over," type of deal, but it's not really, like, too deep, you know? So it's just like, it's good. It's good. I am gonna finish this tonight. There's no other way, and like I said, I have really nothing else to do in between taking care of Iggy. I wanna be more productive next week because this week is just, like, we were just in survival mode. Like, we were up like, the 2 weeks before his surgery, just appointments, going here and there, school stuff, him graduating, and then, his graduation, the surgery, the stay in the hospital, trying to manage his pain for the first few hours, so it was just, like, it's been a mess this week, but next week, I wanna be a little more productive, you know? So, anyways, I'm gonna finish this book, and I'll check in when I'm done. All right, I finished Not Quite Dead last night. I did enjoy it. It was YA, like it read like YA. That was something that just kind of bothered me throughout the book. It was just like you had a childish main character. She kept going on about how she's like only 27, blah blah blah. But like I said, like she acts like a spoiled teenager. The things that bothered me is like she discovered things because like, the plot thickened as the story progressed, and she's trying to figure out who killed her. She's finding out other things about people because obviously she's looking at, like, surveillance videos and things aren't adding up, so she goes to investigate. And there's just, like, things where I'm like, "It's pretty serious," and she did not tell the people I thought she should tell, yeah, she has bigger fish to fry, she's trying to solve her murder, but you would think she'd, like, give some people, like, a heads up, like, "Hey, this other person might kill you." They're not trying to, but they're just, like, doing some dangerous stuff behind the scenes to try to, like, get you to do something. Like, things like that where I'm just why wouldn't she tell somebody or tell that person? Like, irritated me. And it was just kinda corny when she would interrogate someone or, like, try to get to the bottom of something. She'll be like, "You killed me." And then, like, she'll get more information and be like, "Oh, so you didn't kill me." And it was just so over the top stupid. But yeah, like, as far as, like, the plot, how the stories weave together, like, the red herrings, I thought it was good. So it's just, like, it was just a nice little easy book to read. Like I said, I'm not too, um my focus is a little scattered right now. I'm kind of tired, but, it was a good book for me at this point in my life. I'd recommend it, like, if you just need a quick little palate cleanser. The other thing that got on my nerves was a sniffed. She used sniffed all the time instead of, like, said. So she'll be like, "Oh, well, I wish you would come to dinner, Mom sniffed. I'll go with you anywhere, Jet, Billy sniffed." Like, it was just sniff, sniff, sniff the whole time. So anyways, yeah. So that was that book. Like, it was okay. Will I check out her other books? Probably not. Um, I have no idea which book I'm going to read next. I kind of feel like I know I'm not gonna have great reviews of these books, but I have so many Kindle Unlimited books that they've just been sitting there for so long. I kinda just wanna knock them out. Like, I feel like all Kindle Unlimited books are pretty short, like, on average. They're not too, intense. So I could probably read one each day, and I kinda wanna do that, maybe for the weekend. I'm not sure which book I'll start off with next, but once I know, I'll check in. All right, it is now Monday morning. I read two books over the weekend and I enjoyed both of them. Like I'm very happy about them. The first one because it is a start of a series and I love having like a full series to get into. And I think it's like 13 books in this series. I have to look into that. All right, so to back up, I one of my favorite book series is the Sookie Stackhouse Southern Vampire series. This is the show that the True Blood. This is the book series that the True Blood show was based on. So now I was like 18, 19. True Blood was coming to HBO. And at that time, it was like before streaming, like Netflix was like DVDs that you would send back. So it was one of those like cultural moments, like everybody was watching True Blood, and I had wanted to get into the books. Lo and behold, I actually love the books way more than the TV series. And like, I think it's like a nostalgic thing because I was like 18, 19. I had like five or six books to just like jump into. And then throughout my 20s, like new books would come out. So I'm just like very, like, I love that world, right? Once I finished that series, because Charlene Harris said like she's completely done with Sookie Stackhouse, her story's been told, she's not going to write anymore about her, very like final about it. I did try to get into one of her other series, and it was like I forgot the main character's name. I think it was Lily something, but it was like the Shakespeare series because the city or the town's name was Shakespeare. And I couldn't get into it because that character was very like dry. Like she had like an abusive backstory. So her personality was like very on edge, very analytical, very like defensive. And like I couldn't get into it. But I wanted to give it another go, so I requested Real Murders from my library. It came through and I enjoyed it. It was very, very short. One thing Charlene Harris does like so well that I think that's one why she's one of my favorite authors is like she introduces you to this town and all of these people in a very natural way. Like, you know how sometimes authors will like they'll do the same thing, but it just feels like a lot of information just kind of thrown at you. She just, like, weaves it so naturally where you just feel like you know these characters, almost like a TV show where that you've watched for, like, 4 years where you know the characters. That's how she does it, and she does it, like, so seamlessly. And this first book was written in 1990, so there's just this very, like, nostalgic vibe to it. Like, if you lived through the 90s, like, you didn't have a cell phone, you didn't have the internet. It was just very, laid back. You had to go see people, you had to go drive. So, like, I love that about this series. So what it's about is you have this main character, Aurora Teagarden. Her mother's a realtor in like the small southern town. I forgot. I think it's Georgia. Um, it's just like a very small town setting. She is a librarian and she hosts, or she's like in this group called Real Murders. And keep in mind, this is 1990. Like true crime was not a thing. Like I think I've mentioned this before. Like I was into true crime in middle school, like high school, and there was this website called murderpedia.com. And I would like check it out all the time. And it was just like a very basic HTML like dry page. And I remember like I had extra time in the computer lab. So I was on there and there was like this girl that sat next to me. She's like, "Oh, what are you looking at?" And she was just like, "Oh." And she was like so weirded out. So like this group is very like odd at the time because they basically like take turns presenting a murder case, mostly unsolved from like the 1920s, 30s, nothing current, but they're just kind of like, just kind of procedural, what could have happened, unsolved mysteries. I think sometimes like some of them are solved, but whatever. So they just pick a murder and they talk about it. Well, as this book opens up, it's one of these meetings where she was going to present about Julia Wallace, I think it was. And as she's going in, she gets this phone call and she's like, "Oh, I'd like to speak to Julia Wallace, please." And she's just like, "What?" And then the caller hangs up. So she's already like, that was really, really weird. She goes in, blah, blah, blah. Like the meeting starts. One of the members is missing. They find out that she was murdered in the same way that the Julia Wallace murder. So like, obviously like they're trying to figure out what happened. And as the book progresses, a lot of murders take place that are like modeled after other famous murder cases. So she's trying to figure out like who could have done this, who could have done that. But like I said, like, it's just like it's a fun setting. They're fun characters. You get to know them. And it's just like it's cute. So like I'm happy that I have this series that I can just like get into. I requested the second book from my library and it was a hold and it just came through this morning. So it may be the next book that I pick up. I don't know. I don't know if I just want to like savor the series. I remember feeling so like empty when the last Sookie Stackhouse book came out. Like I ended up buying like all these like random anthologies where Charlaine Harris had written. Keeping in mind like most of Charlaine Harris's books, like these books were published in the 90s, so they were kind of old. So yes, I'm happy I have a new series. I may go into it next, but yeah, love that book. So the next book was also a library hold, and it was Boring Asian Female by Canwell Zhu. I didn't know if I was gonna like this book because it is in the perspective of this 21 or 22-year-old young woman that is applying to law school. So like I just like it's not young adult, but it's still like a perspective that like I cannot relate to. But I think I saw Crystal at Fiber Artsy talk about it, and it was just like it intrigued me. So like I did place the hold. So in this book, you have your main character Elizabeth, and she's kind of weird. She is very analytical. She talks about like people in percentages, like, oh, my friend, what's her friend's name? Engine is like in the 80th percentile of attractiveness. This person's like in the 70th percentile, but they have this job. So if we're counting like as a partner, they're probably near like 85%. So that's like her brain, how her brain works, right? She's very smart, but she's also like, yeah, I'm Asian, I have to be smart. It wasn't an option to me. And she gets into Columbia. She kind of planned out her whole life, like, okay. And it was kind of based on like this TV show where she was like, I know it's kind of dumb, but it's like this character show where they were at Columbia University. So that's like her dream. She wants to be a co-ed at Columbia and then she'll transfer to Harvard for law school. That's her game plan, and her numbers line up. She's like, my LSAT, like she only got like 2 wrong questions. Her like GPA is XYZ, so she's like, I am going to get into Harvard Law, no problem. Well, she doesn't get into Harvard. She actually gets rejected from most of her picks, like Harvard, Yale, blah, blah, blah. She only gets into Georgetown, but she is like flabbergasted because this should not happen to her. She's just like, she sends them an email like, hey, like maybe there's been some kind of error. And they kind of, she gets like a canned response, like, after careful consideration, blah, 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 we can't give you like the details of why we pick people, but rest assured that, our decision was correct and you can reapply next year. But this sends her on this like crazy spiral because she finds out this other girl did get into Harvard Law, and she's just like, her LSAT scores is not that high, her GPA is not that high, and she's trying to compute like, how did this woman get ahead of me? How did she get into Harvard and I didn't? And like, her brain operates in percentages. She goes to a college counselor and they're just like, you know what, we can't tell you like, I can't tell you 100%, but you're like a typical Asian woman. It's hard to differentiate all of you. You all have the same thing. You're all high achievers. You all have the same, you all have like, high grades, high test scores. Like she may have written a more compelling personal statement. And she's just like how? And she looks at her like she's a rich girl. Like what could she have written that is more meaningful than what I wrote. And it just like sends her in this like weird stalking phase where she's following this woman trying to figure out what's going on, why does she get ahead, like, and kind of copying her mannerisms too. She'll see what she orders and stuff, and we're just like in her head. It's very linear, it's very fast paced because it's just like it's just like a train taking off the tracks, you know, like there's only one destination and we are like rocketing down it as she's trying to like figure out how she's going to get into Harvard Law, because like she's not deterred. She will get into Harvard Law if she has to get this girl expelled or like rescinded or just to make herself look. And she got like there's this plot point where she decides like this is how she's going to get into Harvard, and it was insane. Like you're in the mind of a crazy person, and it just made it like such a page turner. So really love that book as well. Anyways, those were the last two books that I read. I really enjoyed them. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.